Hello there, and welcome back to Little Bear Games. I'm Josh.
I'm Andy.
And today we're going to be getting a bit sentimental on the podcast, Andy.
Oh, emotional.
So, absolutely. We're going to be looking at games with, I suppose, a certain degree of sentimental value to us, maybe some emotional weight to them.
Okay.
And naturally, I expect we'll differ slightly in terms of our interpretations of sentimentality and what makes us emotional and what we find in these games. That I suppose makes us feel something, and that could be happy, it could be a bit kind of sad or melancholic, and we just kind of have a bit of discussion around those games and why we feel the way we do about them.
Fantastic. I look forward to it.
Perfect. Do you want to start us off, Andy? What's your first game?
Can certainly start us off. I'm going to start us off with a game that I've actually never played, but the sentimental attachment for me to this game is because it was a, shall I say gift? I guess it was a gift to me. I'll explain. So I got into board gaming at a fairly young age with your traditional board games like Monopoly. It was my great aunt. She was great, but she was to explain, she was my father's auntie, so she was my great aunt, but we always called her Auntie Janet anyway, so I never made her feel too old, I hope. She got me into board gaming at a young age whenever we go round, certainly New Year's and things like that, and we would play Trivial Pursuit, and I've mentioned before, Sorry. Some of you people might not know these games.
I don't know, sorry.
No, I don't.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't remember how it plays, in all fairness, but I do remember the Sorry. I remember the board with the little piece. Anyway, we would go around. She had a massive cupboard full of board games, full of toys. It would be great going around to hers. And we would play Frustration. Yeah, varying games. And my great aunt passed away some time ago. Roughly when I was in my early 20s, and her husband Tony, my uncle Tony, only passed away about 2 years ago. And when his and her estate were being cleared out by my auntie and their family, one of the board games that they still had was Sequence. And Sequence is a card game. Again, like I said, I've never played it, but it's a strategy game where your aim is to get 5 in a row, I think. Something along the lines of that. Maybe I should have done a bit more research on it, but this is more about the sentimental value of that. It was my auntie knew, this is my other auntie now who's still with us, saw the board game, knew that I was into board games, and I believe everyone else had turned it down. They were going to throw it away, and it was offered to me. And I took it, and I'm glad I did, because it immediately hit me back to the youth of playing board games with my auntie, and fond memories. And it's because of that, it's a game that's going to stay in my collection forever. I may get around to playing it at some time. It is not a game that I'm necessarily drawn to, but it's one that's extremely sentimental, that brings back fond memories. And I think for me, that's what this podcast episode was all about. So I think when we discussed doing this episode, I think we probably went down slightly different roads. As you said, it might mean different things to different people. So yeah, it's just nice that I've got this game that I think was created back in the 80s, and I'm an 80s boy. And, you know, my auntie introduced me to it. And I just think if she was still around today, she'd absolutely love the plethora of board games that there are. And it would be great that what she started me off with, I'd be going round to hers now with a stack of board games and he's saying, hey, have you tried any of these, you know? So yeah, that's my first game. I'll keep it fairly short because I haven't played the game, so I can't really add anything to it. But if anyone's interested in looking up, yeah, it's called Sequence. So take a look online. I'm sure you can find it.
I'm sure lots of our listeners can kind of resonate with that sort of story, though, where it's not even necessarily about the game as such.
No.
And really, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be a game. It could be like a little statue, or like I remember with my granddad, it was like his pipe collection.
Oh,
or
fantastic.
Whatever. And, you know, it was like 11 years. No, it was less than that. It must have been like 9 years old when he died and stuff. And being, you know, I really want his pipes. I mean, that's probably not the healthiest.
No, but there's something quite cool attached to that.
Yeah, like you say, a sort of sentimentality attached to it, and the memories that brings back and stuff.
Yeah.
How many players is Sequence? Do you know?
Oh, good question. Again, because I haven't played it, I know it's more than one player. When I first saw it, I thought it was a like a solitaire
card
game thing, but It's not. It's a multiplayer. I don't think. I could be being rude here. Somebody please correct me. I feel like other than Solitaire when I was younger, games weren't built for solo play. You know, there was Solitaire. You could pick up a deck of cards and play a solo game. But certainly when I was a kid, when board games were around, it was all about playing with other people, and that was the interaction. Whereas there's a lot more now solo variants, as you quite well know, because you play a lot of them. And there's some mindfulness to that. I think there's a good thing to playing a game solo. So, maybe it's one when we've got a spare 10 minutes we can dig into the box. But the thing is, I've got so many on the shelf for shame that I need to play. For me, it's just one that will sit in my collection, and I will always... when I see it, it's like a little nod to my auntie saying, thank you. I'm here playing board games today. Ultimately, you know, doing a podcast about board games because of what she did to me as a kid, you know. And it's nice because I've always tried to get my family into board games. And while my dad... Hi, Dad. While he will say that he doesn't want to play a board game, when he does start playing a board game, he absolutely loves it. So it tends to only really be Christmas that we will get a board game out, and my dad will really enjoy it. I try and get it any other time of year, and he's, I'm not up for it, which is strange. But so I'm really grateful to my great aunt. So thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. That's really, really cool. It's a lovely start, mate. I think just building off what you were saying there on solo kind of leads me into my first game. Oh, perfect. Which is Escape the Dark Castle.
Nice.
Now, Escape the Dark Castle is a 1 to 4 player kind of light role play game. It's very much based around you have these different encounter cards in the core box, and you shuffle them up and put them into a stack of 15 cards upside down, or face down rather. And that is the Dark Castle. And you take on the role of a different prisoner in the Dark Castle. They have different classes. So you've got like an abbot, a hunter, a chef, all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to escape from the dungeon and escape the Dark Castle. And each turn, you turn over one of the encounter cards and you have to roll dice in order to resolve that particular encounter. So it could be fighting one of the creatures in the Dark Castle. It could be the floors given way and you have to kind of balance across a beam to get across it. And each character's got different stats, and that affects how your dice rolls play out and all this kind of stuff. Now, for me, the reason why it's so sentimental is it was really, I mean, I feel like I'm being a bit bad to Jaipur here, but Jaipur was the first modern board game I bought. So little card game from Chance Encounters in Bristol. Nice. When we went there. Please sponsor us, Chance Encounters Bristol. Or any of your various lovely venues. That'd be super. Now, that was the first one I bought. But Escape the Dark Castle was the first proper modern board game I bought. Big box, you know, big rule book, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think it will just always be there for me now. It was Easter of 2018, and we'd all been round to Albion Laura's that evening and played a few different games. Jazz and I had an argument, I remember, around...
was this a toxic moment?
It was a toxic moment, but we'll leave that in the past for last week. But we had a really good evening. It was great. Played lots of games. And Jazz and I were going to Cardiff the next day. Okay. And there's that awesome board game shop there I love called Rules of Play. Mm-hmm. You know where I'm going now.
I do know where you're going.
Sponsor us, Rules of Play, please. But and I was like, I'm getting a game. And I've referenced this on the podcast before. This is where I would go around to yours and Albie's and play games. And I was like, I want to have my own little collection to bring out. Yeah. And Escape the Dark Castle was the first proper game in that collection. And I got it home, I opened it up, and I was a bit overwhelmed by all the different rules and stuff going on. And I sat down and read through a rule book, and then I noticed this whole thing about solo play at the back. I was like, what? I can play this on my own? And Jazz was on a night shift or whatever, and I sat down and played it, and I was like, wow, that was really cool. Okay. I didn't win. I didn't beat the Dark Castle, but I was like, that was really fun. Nice. I didn't realise, rather than just putting on the PlayStation or watching a film, or whatever, I was like, I've just had a really nice time just sat playing this game. And I think that fundamentally changed me and my hobbies and, you know, interests for, well, indefinitely.
Oh, I love that.
And it's a wonderful, wonderful game. It's had a massive impact on me. I wouldn't be doing this now or be interested in board games if I hadn't bought it, I don't think, or not nearly to the same extent. And something I really like about Escape the Dark Castle was all the expansions. Each one is excellent. So you had Blice of the Plague Lord. That's my favourite. That's great. So you get a new boss character to come in at the end called the Plague Lord. And it introduces these plague dice, so you can build up loads of plague throughout the game, and you get these horrible effects like your arm rots off and you can only carry one thing rather than two and all this sort of stuff. You had the Curse of the Dread Knight, where these curses came in and one player could go mad and start attacking the other players and stuff. And that's a point as well. It's a co-op game. I should have had that in the start. Yeah. And then you had something to do like Cavern of the Undead Queen. Weakest expansion in my opinion, just because it was the most complicated, but still really cool. I had that introduced allies, so you could meet allies in the Dark Castle and they'd help you fight the monsters and stuff. And yeah, I absolutely love it. It's by a company called Themeborn, who I've seen have been doing some really cool games recently. They were at the UK Board Game Expo as well, with Escape the Dark Castle, and they did a new game as well. It was my first ever Kickstarter, actually, by coincidence, Escape the Dark Sector.
That's the sci-fi version, right?
Yeah, sci-fi kind of sequel. Not so keen on that. Nothing to do with the theme, even though I'm typically more fantasy than sci-fi. But it introduced kind of a shooting mechanic, so you had shooting and melee combat.
Okay.
And I just wasn't as keen. It made it.
You prefer to swing a sword?
Not. It doesn't even necessarily come down to that. It was just more complicated than it needed to be.
Right.
Whereas Dark Castle was just roll dice, see if you succeed or not.
Yeah.
That then the shooting in Dark Sector introduced kind of like cover and positioning and this sort of stuff, and I just felt it was a bit unnecessary and overly complicated. Yeah. But love Escape the Dark Castle. It will never leave my collection. I've got everything for it, the big deluxe box, like all of it. I've not played it for quite a while.
It's been a while since I played it with you.
Yeah, but it's never ever going to leave that collection. That's all.
Nice. So another reason for a game being so sentimental. I mean, it's very hard for me to choose games to leave my collection. But when they hold sentimental value, it's going to be something that will stick with me forever. Also, I always worry about, not to go on too far of a tangent, but games going out of print. So I like to keep hold of games because games come in and out of print from time to time. I mean, we have a game that we played recently called Samurai.
Yeah.
And I immediately liked it and said I wanted to go out and purchase it, but it's out of print at the moment, I believe.
Yeah.
I think the only one I could find was one in Spanish. I'll move on to my second choice, if that's okay, which is 20 Second Showdown. It's a party game. It's a big potato game. And the reason that this has sentimental value is, one, it's a party game, and party games are always fun to play with people. But this was especially fun because we played 20 Second Showdown at your stag do.
Which says a lot because I don't remember it.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, your stag do was fun. It was one of your rages.
The first night of it was fun.
Because you remember the first night, or?
Well, I just remember not being in agonising pain, or...
Were you in agonising pain the second night?
No, I was the second morning.
Because of the first night. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, well, this is me having memory blocks. But so the reason this game has a sentimental value for me is it was the first time that I met a lot of your friends that you'd grown up with at university, and they were all absolutely wicked people, so shout out to you guys. And we played, I took 20 Second Showdown with us, and it was just such a great bonding session, considering that I'd never met these people. Everybody was up for just taking the mick, joining into doing... So 20 Second Showdown is a game where it's a party game, as I said, and you split into two teams. And the idea is that you have an egg timer that you have roughly 20 seconds each. You pick up a card, and that card will give you a task. And it might be for your whole team to get on the floor as if you were in a rowing boat and start rowing. So the time it takes you to read that card and get down is essentially you have 20 seconds. And as soon as you complete your task, you get up and you turn the egg timer back over. So then you're gathering time while the other team are losing time. And the aim of the game is basically make the one of the teams run out of time, and then that team. But you're just doing really, really silly tasks. Like I say, it was getting on the floor and rowing, or it might be create a rap, and every person has to come up with a word. We were doing all sorts. And I mean, don't get me wrong, alcohol probably helped massively loosen our inhibitions and do silly stuff. But it's really it has fond memories for me. One, because it was your stag do. Two, I got to meet lots of wicked people during your stag do.
And Bron.
And Bron. Lots of wicked people.
Sorry, Bron.
And Bron. And it was probably the most fun game that we'd played that weekend, with the exception of the egg throwing one, but that was because I didn't play it, because I was a loser.
Do you know, I got the giggles a minute ago when you were talking. I was trying to keep it quiet, but I just remember Jasper getting hit in the head with that egg. It was like a moment from Saving Private Ryan.
Who threw the egg? I can't remember.
Wasn't it? It wasn't Hassie, was it?
I think it was either Hattie. I remember Hattie hitting Bron or Bron hitting Hattie with a really cracking shot.
Cracking.
Hey, he's got a pun in there. So, okay, to go off topic ever so slightly, the idea of the game was you had a load of eggs on the floor. You would spin the bottle would land on somebody. Everybody else had to run as quickly as you could away, and that person that had the bottle land on them picked up the egg and had to throw it and hit somebody. It was a simple game, but it created a lot of good memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your stag do was fun anyway. It wasn't too...
But it's funny you talking about that game, because images just started coming back into my mind.
Nice.
They've been locked away, clearly. And I do remember seeing a load of you sat on the floor doing a rowboat and stuff. Yeah. I can't remember the finer points and other examples, but the rowboat one stands out to me.
Yeah. Wasn't there something where you had to climb under everybody's legs as well?
Yeah, it's all that
just
kind of
really,
stuff.
really silly tasks. So, yeah, it holds sentimental value to me because, just good times. Like, good times. Puts a smile on her face, as it has done now, clearly, and brought back some good memories. So, yeah, one I can definitely recommend for any party games, and hopefully you people will also create fond and sentimental memories as a result. That was 20-second shading.
Well, it's funny, just building off the kind of, I suppose, Parsi game theme and social elements. My next game is Blood on the Clocktower.
Nice.
And I know that's a game you're exceptionally fond of.
Yes.
And you kind of follow quite a bit in terms of you watch YouTube videos about it and playthroughs and that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's a mixed one for me, Blood on the Clocktower, because I've played it during very good times of my life. I've played it through very bad times of my life. But there's just something about it. I think it brings people together in a very unique way.
Yeah.
It's more engrossing than, say, something like Werewolf, which we've spoken about lots of times on this, so I won't go into again. I think the storytelling element, the freedom, and I use this word a lot on the podcast, I've noticed from listening back, but looseness of it, the fact it's very free-flowing. You can kind of do whatever you want, really, within certain limits. You know, you can go off on your own as a two into a room or outside and have like a private chat, but then that might rouse suspicion, or you could stay in the main room and chat with a group and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And before I sort of trail off too much, for those of you who aren't aware of Blood on the Clocktower, it's kind of the big social deduction game at the moment. It's got elements of light role play if you want to kind of add that in. We don't tend to.
No, I think the first time we played it, I as a storyteller, took on a bit of a role, a hoodie, and we created a bit of an atmosphere. So yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
and it's the idea is that you're in one of potentially three teams. Some of you are the townspeople / villagers. Some are outsiders, and some are. Well, it's 4 actually, isn't it? Because minions and demons as well.
Yeah, so minions and demons are essentially on the same team. But yeah, you're within different roles. And as you say, villagers and outsiders are on the same team, but different roles and different powers and stuff and affect how you play,
Yeah, and the idea is there are multiple win conditions depending on what roles are out. But for the most part, most basic concept is the demon and minions want all of the kind of villagers / townspeople / outsiders to die. And townspeople want to catch the demon. Yeah. Well, execute the demon, don't they? And what that leads to is kind of a rolling day or night system where at night everyone goes to sleep, they wake up, various player powers go off at night when everyone's got their eyes closed. The demon can kill someone, and there's other kind of abilities like the empath, who's one of the townspeople, knows if people either side of them, how many of them are good or evil.
Perfect, yeah.
But then there's other things that can make you drunk or poisoned, and then your powers don't work necessarily the right way, so the storyteller could lie to you and all this kind of stuff. And then in the day, you go out and speak to people and move around the social group or stick to your corner and be very cagey if you want to. And then kind of in the evening, you have a vote on who you think should be executed, who you think the demon is. Once that's resolved, if the demon hasn't been executed, you go back to sleep and the cycle continues. And I think I've included this multiple reasons. I think I love the fact that if you've had a bad day or a bad time or whatever, you can get really engrossed in this for an extended period of time. It's a really nice way to kind of escape for a few hours. I think more importantly for me, though, what I really have enjoyed about it is being the storyteller.
You love being the storyteller.
I absolutely love it. And that's not to say I don't like being a player, because I really enjoy that as well. But there's something about the storyteller aspect, given the times when we've played it as well, during really hard times and what have you. It's nice constructing something that you think people are going to have fun with. Yeah. And they're going to enjoy and lose themselves in. And I really, really like that. I like kind of thinking, I could include this and make it a bit more tricky or nasty, or I could make it a bit more easy and fun. And, I think that ability to kind of weave a story through your choice of what demons you're putting in, what minions, what roles you're selecting at the start, how you're going to respond to questions. And that's the thing, that looseness applies massively to the storyteller, because they're the one who, if the empath who gets to know if a player either side of them's evil is drunk, you're the one who can choose whether to lie to them or not. Yes. And, if so, how much you're going to lie. You're going to tell them they're both evil when they're not. Yes. It's that kind of stuff. Are you not going to wake them up at night? You can kind of play it however you want to. And I think that freedom, that fun, the fact you're bringing together a group as well, there's just something about it. I've had so many good times playing that game, regardless of what's going on outside of the game. And also with different people, because you and I have played with multiple gaming groups. We've played with different people present, and it's always been a really good, engaging time and really fun. Yeah, I agree with that. When we played with people that we'd never met before in a local gaming group, you'd think that it would be, I don't want to say awkward, but you just wonder how that event's going to go. And actually, it was absolutely fantastic. And we went repeated times. And I look forward to going again if we ever get the chance to. But there is something quite nice about then introducing that to our friends the way we did and hosting an evening. And you and I have both been storytellers, and I very much enjoy being a storyteller too. Not because I'm a control freak, I promise you. I am. You are. So there's something quite nice about just hosting that evening and then watching people go off and enjoy themselves. And there is a sense of joy to that. And this could have quite easily been on my list too. In terms of what Josh is referring to some of the bad times, is that after the passing of my daughter, we would get together and play this a fair bit. And I guess it was a little bit of distraction, a little bit of us trying to get together to support each other. So there's some really, really good, strong memories with this game, as in we love playing it, but also there's that attached memory of, it reminds us of that time where we were all, and it's still sad now, but it was still very, very raw. And I want to play it again because actually, while some of that was raw and some of those feelings were tough, I think us all getting back together and playing that again at some point will strengthen our friendship just that little bit more, and just remind us that, anything that's going to remind me of my daughter, or times that where we've been together and supported each other, I'm absolutely fine with. So let's please get a Blood in the Clocktower night. And if anyone's listening and want to join us and you don't live too far from us in the Southwest here, please hit us up on Instagram and we'll arrange an evening. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think you and I have talked about wanting to host some games as a sort of charity fundraiser at some point. So I think that's just nice to mention now, seeing as we're bringing up Blood on the Clocktower. Yeah, definitely. Please do hit us up if you want to play some Blood on the Clocktower. So what's your final game? My final game that has sentimental value for me is one of my favourite games. I don't think I've talked about much on any of our episodes, with the exception of the fact that you don't like this game very much. Pause the podcast if you're listening. Write a comment down below if you think you can guess what this game is. It's Seven Wonders.
I have the second edition. I played Seven Wonders for the first time and absolutely loved it. And to appease my partner, I didn't go out and immediately buy it because I tend to do that with games that I like. And she purchased this. So the reason this is quite fun to me is she purchased this for my birthday and did so on behalf of my daughter as well. So as much as me liking the game, I'm fond of this game because it was a gift. The second edition is absolutely beautiful. I went out and bought sleeves for the game as well, and sleeved the whole deck of cards that are in the game. So for people that don't know, Seven Wonders, card drafting game, civilization building game, you can play as you're basically building wonders of the ancient world. So it might be pyramids.
Yeah, Pyramid of Giza.
Yeah, Great Library.
Colossus of Rhodes.
Colossus. Yeah, this is more your area of expertise, which is interesting given that you don't like the game.
I'm not just a one-trick pony, Andy.
That's what I'm trying to drill home to people that, you're just a nerdy one-trick pony. So I very much enjoyed playing it, and I think most of our friends very much enjoy playing Seven Wonders. For some reason, and maybe it's because Josh has only ever won the game once.
One time.
And it was after that one time that you said you were going to retire, so that...
I'm retired.
You are retired.
I won that one game, and it was on Board Game Arena, not because it was over COVID.
Oh, okay.
And then I sent you and Albie that GIF of Conor McGregor walking like Vince McMahon, with his arms flailing, and he's walking down the corridor.
Nice. Yes, I remember that. Yeah, and it's a shame that you don't like it because I'd quite happily play it again. And interestingly, then I went and got Seven Wonders Architects, and it's also another game that you don't like. That's ancient history related. I thought I was doing you a favor. So the significance, it's basically a game that I absolutely loved that then got given to me as a gift. It will never leave my collection as a result because, I've said it. It's a beautiful game with massive sentimental value to me. So I'll cherish that. And, maybe one day when I have children, or maybe even my brother has children, I'm just trying to think of being my great aunt and handing my game of Seven Wonders to somebody in when I pass. It's certainly going to be in my collection till the day I pass. So yeah, along with the other games I've mentioned, to be fair, they'll all be in my collection. I rarely get rid of games. I've only got rid of one or two. You purge your games a lot more, but then your collection's a lot bigger than mine. Much bigger collection than mine. Yeah, so Seven Wonders. That's my third and final one. What's your next one, Josh?
So my next one's a bit of a cheat, but it's Warhammer.
Okay.
So not a ball game.
It's a game. It's a tabletop game.
Tabletop game. Yeah. And I'm not going to differentiate between 4CK or Age of Sigmar.
Thank God for that.
I'm just going to kind of keep it vague as such.
Because 40k is better.
No, Age of Sigmar is better. Fantasy beats sci-fi.
I disagree.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I said the quiet part loud and the loud part quiet.
Yes, yeah.
We've just lost the podcast.
Yeah, sorry. Is everyone falling asleep?
Because most people hate Age of Sigmar and everyone likes 40k.
It depends if you're sci-fi or fantasy, right?
Enjoy your solo career, Andy. Yes. I've just got myself cancelled.
Nice.
No, I love Warhammer, and I mean, I love it and hate it in equal measure. There's parts of a hobby that I find awful, and there's a lot of scope for bad things in it, but ultimately I think it's a force for good. I love, you can kind of break down Warhammer as a hobby into kind of different sections. You've got the kind of tabletop gaming aspect, you've got the painting and modelling, and you've got the lore. And I love all three of them. And I think it sort of goes back similar kind of vein to what I was saying about Blood on the Clocktower. It's a game that regardless of what's going on in the outside world, you can lose yourself in. And you can lose yourself in it in those three different areas.
Yeah.
You could get really into playing games and join clubs, or if you're lucky enough to have a group of friends who collect as well to play with them, enter tournaments, all that kind of stuff. You've also got the lore, which you can spend hours. You can buy the books, the audio books, you can read online. The YouTube videos on it are fantastic. People like Voldemort, Wes Hammer, even tangential kind of horror story stuff like Northern Exile, I really, really like listening to. And then you've got painting and modelling, which you can just spend days, weeks, months, etc. being really mindful with. And as a kid, because it's got a childhood sentimentality me as well. I remember my mum taking me down, was it South Street or Union Street or one of them in Exeter, and get me my first box, and it was like Wood Elves versus Orcs back in the old Warhammer Fantasy, which discontinued now. And just spending ages, I used to listen to Grisly Tales for Gruesome Kids, narrated by Andrew Sachs, I want to say.
Okay.
And it was a tape. It was like cassette tape that we'd rented from a library. It's making me feel old. And we'd listen to that, and like Mum would help me paint my orcs and stuff. And I didn't thin them, and they looked terrible, but it was just a really nice, fond memory. And now as an adult, I value that so much more. That time of just sitting in quiet, maybe with like an audiobook going and painting some models. And I love for playing the game with you guys. Yeah. And I'll again listen to lore on the drive to work or whenever. And yeah, I think it's just a hobby that overall gives people a very good outlet creatively in terms of gaming. And I suppose to articulate it the best way possible for me is, if I'm feeling a bit low or what have you, Warhammer, like, I can always find a way with Warhammer to find something to look forward to or get my teeth into or take my mind off things that aren't so good. And that could be like, oh, these Black Templar guys seem cool. I'm going to start, really getting into them and reading up on them.
Yeah.
And, I'm quite obsessive with stuff anyway. When I find a new interest, I get really into it. And I'll do that loads for Warhammer. And you can flip-flop between armies. You can read about specific battles or eras, or there's so many rabbit holes to go down.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it's very healthy and very good.
I agree with the healthy side of it. Certainly from the painting, modeling, you can have a bit of a zen moment, sit there and paint. And we did quite a bit of that when we spent time together earlier this year. After our bad news, and there was some nice moments in that, just being able to just chill and paint. I mean, my earliest memory of Warhammer was probably before you were born, where my friend Nick introduced me to it, better known as Angus these days, by his artist name, street artist, and we both spent some pocket money on some Space Marines and tried to take up the hobby. And unfortunately, my dad at the time was of the opinion it was a waste of money, so I never really got into it, which is a bit of a shame. But as I earned my own money, and Josh introduced me to it again, I've picked up Tau as an army at the moment, and I need to do some painting. Any tips for a colorblind guy on painting? Please shout out and give me a hand. Be much appreciated.
Doesn't matter. You're collecting Tau.
What are you saying? I can just paint them white. I'll just paint them one color.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter what they look like. Fair enough. Maybe I should have gone with the Black Templars. I can just paint them black, right? That's.
You leave the Black Templars alone.
I thought you might get like that.
I think it's interesting you saying that about your dad sort of saying it's a waste of money, and I think there's definitely a generational thing involved 100%. In that. You and I commented the other day when we were at that car boot sale. We heard that mum. There was that son. I assume her son, like walking by with Pokemon cards.
Yes.
At that stand, and like pointing at something, and we overheard her going like, "No, it's just waste of money." Like, and we had a chat, didn't we? And we said, like, I think people now are coming around more to this idea that hobbies like, say, Pokemon cards or Warhammer or what have you, board gaming, it's not a waste of money. Not, I really want my kids to get into stuff like that.
Yeah.
More so than video games. No, I'm not a anti-video game guy at all. I've advocated for them for years, and I used to find it absolutely outrageous when the news would say, we're making kids stupider or making them violent or what have you. Something like Warhammer, where you're spending time, patience, effort, painting, you're building skills, you're learning how to, basic kind of dexterity, maths, all that sort of stuff is coming from that. Creativity.
Socializing.
All that's coming from it. And same with Pokemon cards. So hopefully more and more people see that. And those are the kind of positive elements I'm talking about. It's not just mindfulness in terms of focus. You're also building your own skills as you're going.
I mean, these hobbies aren't cheap. And if you can't afford it, that's a genuine reason to not partake. But do see that there is a benefit 100% to, I was very much an introvert as a kid. And I think if I would have had more board games and had groups that I could go to, like there are more and more today, I might have been a little different. I might have been a bit more outgoing, and maybe we would have started this podcast sooner, there's definitely value and skills to be learnt from any hobby that you might like. So encourage people to take on their hobbies. there are other benefits to them. So
and I'm not going to give up trying to get Jazz into Warhammer.
no, well, same. But the only thing is, for my partner Jodie, she won't like fantasy, and she definitely won't like sci-fi. Those are just themes that. So maybe we need to get into bolt action or something like that. I don't know.
But they love the crafts.
They love
crafts and that stuff. I think that's our angle.
Yeah.
Bolt action, I don't think's like Jazz hates war-y, World War II stuff in particular. Yes. I know. I reckon Albie's got the best chance of getting Smithy into it, and then hopefully they'll fall like dominoes.
Okay.
But I'm not sold on his rationale. He really wants Smithy to get into Skaven because they look like rats, and he says she does. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. And she didn't he give her a rat deck
for magic?
Magic at one point. Oh, Albie. I mean, it's a good thing she's got a great sense of humour.
It really is.
Well done, Smithy.
I mean, and to be fair, if that's our best chance of one of them getting into Warhammer, I'm not going to hold out too much.
Well, Smithy, you playing Magic kind of did get our partners trying it at the very least.
Yeah.
And then they played Lorcan and enjoyed it. So, there's Pokemon as well.
And shout out to Smithy here while we're on this.
Mm-hmm.
She was vicious in Magic.
She was great.
She destroyed us in every single game we played.
Funny enough, with that rat deck, she absolutely kicked our butt.
Was it the rat?
Or was it the one
like
she kept?
Undead,
like an undead one, didn't she?
Sort of kept bringing stuff back. It was horrendous.
Yeah. And shout out to Dave as well, who we've only played Magic with once, and I just want to say I kicked your ass, but bring it on, dude. I'm just trying to egg you on so that you play some games with us. I was just going to do some shout outs actually, and say thank you to the Stables board game pub/cafe in Weston-super-Mare. Thank you for your support and putting out a post for us. That was nice of you.
Yeah, thank you.
We've also the Games Bunker, which is also in Weston, which is a cool place you should check out. They've got a little store downstairs and tables upstairs that you can play Warhammer and other tabletop games. I think they even let you play board games there.
Yeah, and they sell all of the above we
models.
mentioned.
Yeah, so
from Magic to Warhammer Sigma, 40k, bolt action, all those sorts of games.
So also then a shout out to Western Board Game Club, who we played Blood on the Clocktower, and to Western War Gamers Club that are in Western. So if you're into Warhammer, etc., you can go along to them. So go check them out on Facebook, etc. So thank you very much.
Perfect. So that rounds off our lists of games with sentimental/emotional attachments to them. Anything you want to add, Andy? Just to finish off?
No, I guess there was more sentimental talk rather than the board games themselves this time, but I just think that was important for us to talk about and have some lovely memories. It's another therapy session for us. Yeah, no one needs to talk about Seven Wonders for longer than necessary anyway. I disagree with you, but I did it for your benefit so that you didn't have to put up with that. Much appreciated. You're welcome. Cool. I've been Josh. I've been Andy. Take care, everyone. Before you leave, you must know you are beloved. Before you leave, remember I was with